Did you miss us? We're back. After a 3 week hiatus, welcome to the Hall of Fame show from nothinhalloffame.com. And I'm your host, Kirk Buchner. As you can see, I'm in a different location. I'll get into why that is a little bit later. But joining me, as always, is Evan Nolan, my good friend from Chicago. And we are the co-owners of the wonderful site, nothinhalloffame.com. Check that out. You must have, because why else are you on this? Huh? Huh? Must be true. And we also co-own the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame. Big news from that next week. The Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Big news from that next week. And I don't know. I think there should be a big award ceremony, although none of them will show up because they're fictional. Yeah. What are you gonna do? The United States Athletic Hall of Fame is also something that we co-own. Check that out, www.nothinhalloffame.com/USA. Biggest news in the Hall of Fame thing. So I do apologize to everyone. I had to go, well, I didn't have to go, but I went to Cuba. And here's what's great in Cuba: the mojitos, the rum. Here's what's terrible in Cuba: the internet.
Yeah.
So we realized pretty quickly that there was just no way I was going to get off a show, especially when
we tried it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you finish. You finish.
I was just going to say, especially after sort of, I mentioned that on Twitter, and then someone who subbed in for you one time, Glenn Pulowski, said, "Come on, if I can sort of like do something from New Zealand, you can do this." I said, "Buddy, it took me an hour just to respond to your snarky tweet." Which was true.
And I will say, while you're gone, I do have what is now currently a lost episode that I did with Jack Silverstein.
Okay. Yep.
A short thing on what we thought the most recent Pro Football Hall of Fame class meant for future people getting in. I just am not good at editing or doing any of this stuff, and I need to put on the sponsors thing that I put on top of it. And Jack is coming. Thank you for being there. This lost episode will hopefully be out at some point next week or so.
It's sort of like the lost tapes of something, right? When it comes out.
Yeah, right. So, but no, we'll have that out. We'll have that out shortly. I have never been in a position where I've had to be the person to get everything over to.
Well, not as easy as it looks now, is it?
I am learning.
I joke about how little editing I do, which is true. Mm-hmm. As anyone who's seen other shows know, how many things like, why did he include this? Because I'm lazy.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing is, like, I didn't want to get the sponsor in there because I didn't want to screw it up. Then I did the sponsor video separately, and I'm like, how do I combine these?
Well, speaking of a sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
We do have a sponsor, and it's our good friends over at BetStamp. Now, whenever you're making any kind of major purchase, you are shopping. So, but and the same thing, sort of like if you're doing stocks. Now it looks like I'm going to be sort of dipping my little toe in the stock market. But I want to sort of like make sure that I'm doing the right thing by me. And gambling's kind of the same thing, sports wagering, isn't it? So you want to make sure that you've got the right wager for you. So if you're really passionate about, let's say, like your current hometown Chicago Blackhawks, I know you're not passionate about it.
I'm not passionate about them, no.
Right. Let's say Chicago's playing your real hometown favorite, Boston Bruins.
Yeah, let's just pretend it didn't happen in the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry.
Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Right. But Boston is a huge favorite right now, actually, to win the Stanley Cup. But imagine if you would have made that wager a few months ago. Because that's looking pretty good. Because obviously the odds aren't the same. But let's say Evan's a smart man, especially when he bets against me. Evan would probably say, you know what? I think Boston's going to win the whole thing now. Who's paying the best odds? BetStamp's going to help you out with that. Because you can sort of log into all your gambling sites, be it William Hill, be it Bet888, Bet Caesars. There's so many. There's infinite amount. And you can just sort of like put in the one that you're thinking of and just find who's giving the best odds. This works in even games. Chicago versus Boston. Who's paying? What's the best line?
It's interesting now. You can bet in Chicago, and as of the 10th of March, you'll be able to bet in Boston as well legally.
Oh, you couldn't do that before?
Yeah, you could not do that before. So you can in Illinois now, and it comes into effect the 10th of March in Massachusetts. So.
Well, our friends at BetStamp don't care where you are. But if you're gonna do a bet, this is where you do it. You go to BetStamp. You can also sort of like you can also sort of transfer a bet. This is the best way to do that. I am going to become such a betting expert that I'm going to finally win back all these beers I lost to Evan.
Good luck.
Of course, you're probably going to be yes, good luck. Of course, you're also going to be doing the same thing. So maybe this may not work out. Having said that, do that for us. Also support us. And when you're doing that and download that app, go. The promo code is Buck25. Easy to remember. Buck, part of my last name. 25, half my age. Anyway.
I was wondering where you're going for that.
Yes.
Can I tell you what? I've missed you. This is not...
It's been a while, huh?
It has been a while. It's been like 3 weeks. So
it has. It's felt
so,
like
yeah. Is there anything else you want to go over before we dive in?
I think I'll save the one other thing for when we do the in memoriam.
Fair enough.
If that's all right. So our main event, we would have probably done this last week, but we're going to do a deep dive into the Basketball Hall of Fame finalists. The Basketball Hall of Fame, which was, as much as I love basketball, the Basketball Hall of Fame, I'll put it bluntly, they suck in a lot of ways. And here's a great way of how they suck. Well, actually, let me do the glasses half full bit. I love how they do this time-wise. We know that they're going to do it. They always do the finalists every All-Star weekend, and they always announce who gets in on the Final Four. That makes a lot of sense, and they do it brilliantly. What they do poorly is we never know how many finalists they're going to be. Never have a clue. We don't even know how they get together because we don't even know who gets together. We don't know who any of these people are who decide this. Maybe Evan is one of the voters. Don't know. Maybe I'm one of the voters. Don't know. But we know nothing about their whole process. We know the when, just not the how or what or how many. The combination also of putting pretty much everything together while on the surface seems great, waters down a little bit, I find. Although it's a great honor for some of these people. Do we want to go through this alphabetically, or do we want to just sort of like?
Why don't we do that? Why don't we do sort of like the categories as much as there are categories? You know what I mean?
Sure. All right. So let's go with let's just look at the main players because that's the ones that we really care about, right? Okay. So first one that I think is someone I'm personally bigger on. I don't know if I'm bigger on than most. And that's Pau Gasol. Oh, another thing I should mention in terms of how they decide eligibility is also something that's very ambiguous. Dwight Howard, for example, is playing in Taiwan. Is he eligible 3 years after he plays in the NBA? I think so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, but and I guess because Pau Gasol makes me think automatically of international players. One of the best, probably the best player ever to come out of Spain. Multi-time champion with the Lakers, multi-time postseason All-Star. I see him as a first ballot Hall of Famer. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's based off of the categories and the way they have them. I mean, he won championships in with the Lakers, major part of them, and also internationally one of the most important players at the time. I'd be very, very surprised if he were not among the group.
Yeah, and again, like just the international stuff matters. So
100% matters. It matters more in Basketball Hall of Fame than anything else.
Yeah, hockey being a second and baseball 0.
Football's less than baseball. Baseball maybe slightly more, but probably not.
Oh yes, I suppose so. Yes, football less than 0. Vinny, yes, I'm sorry, less than 0. I love you, brother, but less than 0. So Pau Gasol is someone who I'm very, very excited about. Actually, this whole group is something that I would consider actually maybe looking into doing a road trip to see this. The second big name on this, keeping with the European flair, Dirk Nowitzki, who I have him as number 1 on the current basketball list. And I'm just going to mention another name right now, Dwayne Wade, who we'll talk in a little bit greater depth to. But Nowitzki, finalist, 4-time first team All Player. Was he an MVP? I believe
he was in 2007.
Okay, Right. So 2007, and he did what was considered impossible at the time. Nobody thought that he was going to that Dallas had a shot against the first year big three of the Miami Heat,
Mm-hmm.
and Nowitzki won.
Mm-hmm.
Nowitzki beat them, and this is the guy for a lot of people that sort of took the, even though we have Gasol on this list, but he was the guy that made a whole lot of people take Europeans in a draft more than
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other people. Nowitzki is, from what everything I've ever learned about him, just like a really good guy. So he's got everything. He's a champion. He did okay for Team Germany, but there was nobody
And
else.
it's hard when you're a one person team going up against teams of all stars. It's just
Exactly, yeah.
what are
But
you
I
gonna do?
have him as number one over Dwayne Wade.
Fair.
Saying that, saying that, I would see them letting Wade be the headliner.
Wade was never an MVP though, and Nowitzki's higher on the scoring list. Although Wade has 3 rings to Nowitzki's 1, and
Right.
Wade was the one who convinced LeBron and Bosch to come to Miami to form that trio.
But Wade's
So
a bigger celebrity.
I guess that's true. He definitely dates the bigger celebrity.
Yeah.
So I guess that's true. I don't know. This kind of feels like, I mean, Duncan, Garnett, and Kobe, and it
Mhm.
ended up being, if Kobe were there, he probably still would have been the headliner, but he'd passed away, so his memory was the headliner. But like, if we're Duncan or Garnett, they're just kind of the same. You know what I mean? Even though Duncan's probably a bigger, probably higher on like the all-time pyramid in the NBA. He has no real personality, unlike Garnett, who's nothing but personality. So
Absolutely.
they kind of balance out. I kind of feel the same thing about Nowitzki and Wade. I kind of feel like they're going in as equals,
Mhm.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I totally do. I do think that, I mean, just again, because of the celebrity status, and it's not, even though I have Nowitzki as the better overall player than Wade, we're not really talking about a seismic chasm between the two.
No.
So
One's a 14-time All-Star, the other's a 13-time All-Star. Like, what are we even talking about?
no, exactly. Well, just something that I do find, because
Yeah.
we're all about hierarchies, right? So I'm fascinated by how they might look at this. Uh, Wade is the more eloquent speaker,
Wade
and
had a better college career.
and the more famous wife,
And the more famous wife. That's true.
and more famous trans daughter.
Also true.
Also true. So there's a certain level of celebrity there. Wade, Nowitzki are definitely locks for first ballot Hall of Famers. Uh, Gasol should be.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised if he wasn't. The one that I'm very intrigued about is Tony Parker.
The man who Red Auerbach insisted the Celtics draft Joe Forte over.
Really?
Uh,
I didn't know that.
yeah, that was Joe Forte was Auerbach's last pick. The Celtics were going to go get Parker, and Auerbach said, "No, you need this Joe Forte kid," and it didn't work out as well.
Look at that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I was actually looking at, because I'm trying to scout for a new potential show with my good friend Dave. I think I told you about that, where I'm looking at athletes who sing. So I was looking at
Okay.
Tony Parker French rap.
You're not just looking at the entire NFL honors.
Oh God, what did I stumble across that was so colossally bad? It was a Trevor Bauer diss track.
You had a card hard to figure out whether Trevor Bauer is being dissed or he's doing the dissing. So
Well, no, he's trying to diss.
I see.
Yes, so it's Trevor Bauer respond. I forget to who. I think it was like shots at Garrett Cole or whoever the hell.
Mm,
Either way, it'd be as about as technically proficient as if I tried to rap,
fair enough.
and I cannot rap, despite the fact maybe I've got a little bit of Eminem features here. I don't know. No.
Maybe I have I do know all the words to a whole bunch of raps, but I would never be able to write one of my own. So
No, myself
you
either.
want me to do the alphabet aerobics by by Blackstreet? I'm down right now. So
There
no,
you go.
Blacklicious. What am I saying? I just got to write the first time I get
But,
confused.
but Parker, okay, he's got a really good resume. So we talked about rings. So Parker's got more. He's got four, but was
Mm-hmm.
the third guy, still a six-time All-Star, Finals MVP, which I think is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about international accomplishments. One Eurobasket for France.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're going to put all four of these guys in. Well, I know they're going to put two. I suspect the third. Parker on my list is number 5 overall of people who are for that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I
I
like
mean,
Parker to be in, but does
yeah,
it?
I mean, Parker's getting in at some point.
Mhm.
I mean, what was it? 2 years ago, I have a spreadsheet on this. I should probably just look at it. But like 2 years ago, they just put everybody, right? Everybody who was nominated
But there was
got
only
it.
5 nominations.
No, there are more than that. Hold
That
on,
was in the Kobe year. They only had 5. Was that 2 years ago?
hold on. Let
Okay.
me pull it up. This yeah, 2021. No, it's 2020 and no 2020. Bryant, Garnett, Duncan, Tamika Catchings,
And Bob
Kim
Huggins.
Mulkey, Eddie Sutton, Barbara Stevens, Rudy Tomjanovich, and Patrick Bauman all got in. They're the only people nominated.
Oh, okay, but that was a combined one because of COVID.
No, there's
Well,
2019. No, it wasn't.
okay.
Yeah, 2020 and 2021 ceremonies were combined, I think, maybe. But the
Okay.
classes are separate because 2021 was Bosch, Pierce, Weber, Wallace, that group. So,
So I think with Parker, we have someone who I'm going to call 50-50 to get in this year.
but 100% to get in the next
Right.
three.
Right. I mean, no one's going to be a first-time nominee and not get in eventually.
Mhm.
Notable absences: Chauncey Billups, who's been a
Mhm.
finalist before.
Yep.
John Kemp, who looks like he's never going to be a finalist. He's certainly a forgotten person.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, you and I both lived through the Rain Man era, right?
Yeah, he was ridiculous. Before
Absolutely,
before the downfall was swift, but the peak was fantastic.
it was. It was. So, man, I mean, like this is going to be a loaded class just with these three. And do we want to look at some of the coaches, or do we want to look at?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least a few of these coaches. I mean, Greg Popovich, you have to talk about. It's the winningest coach in NBA history. It's a 5-time NBA champion. I think him being on the ballot probably helps Parker in a way.
It's a good story
Yeah.
to put
Because
Popovich and Parker on at the same time.
I mean, Rodman is in, Duncan is in,
Mhm.
Ginobili is in, Parker is the
And this
last
is
one.
his first time on a as a finalist. I
Correct.
don't see how he doesn't. If
Yeah.
he's at this stage, you've got to
He's
put
the
him.
winningest coach in NBA history. Let me repeat that.
Mhm.
He has more wins than anyone else.
4
So,
titles, head coach on a U.S. team. He's got the most loaded resume of anyone, including Wade and Nowitzki.
agreed.
So
Yeah.
I don't see how he doesn't. Some of the other names, I'll admit, I'm not that familiar with them. Gene,
Well, you don't know Gene Katie?
well, no, I know. I'm just naming. I'm just saying that's like going ahead. Like there's a few people
Okay.
I don't know. So like obviously like a big deal at Purdue, and certainly someone I'm sure your brother was very familiar
Yeah, one of the greatest comb overs in sports history, Gene Katie.
with.
He had like no hair here and a ton on this side. He would just comb it constantly that direction.
And for those wondering that reference, Evan's brother was the lead announcer for Notre Dame basketball for many years.
For many years. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
40, 39 before he
39.
retired.
Okay.
He's on day like 58 of a round the world cruise at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he left on my birthday from Florida. He's currently in Australia through the Great Barrier Reef, heading towards Indonesia, and then I can't remember where they go now. Oh, they go to Colombo in Sri Lanka. That's the next
Hmm.
stop after that. So he's gone all the way that way through the Pacific, stopped in Pago Pago and a whole bunch of other places along the way. So
I hear Indonesia is a great place to find a wife.
Indonesia is a fantastic place. I highly recommend everyone go. And the language for us non-Asian speakers is maybe the easiest language to learn in the world.
Well, look at you sort of taking my steam. And for those wondering what kind of corny joke, my wife's Indonesian, and I did
Yeah.
not meet her there. But anyway, but
but
yeah,
but Bahasa, which is the language there, all the islands have their own alphabets. And the Dutch got there and like, this is stupid. You're having the Western alphabet. So it's a country with a Western alphabet, and there are no verb forms and no gendered nouns, which are like the two hardest things.
And the letters only have one sound.
And the letters only have one sound. That's right.
Mhm.
So like fried rice is nasi goreng. If you want fried rice with chicken, it's nasi goreng ayam. And like they just keep adding like this is word for fried, this is word for rice, this is word for chicken. We're just giving them all together.
Buddy, 3 years, and how did I not know that you knew this much about my wife's language?
Yeah, I love Indonesia. I was there in 2009. It was the last country I was in before I got engaged. So
I didn't know that either.
yeah, I got engaged in Cambodia, but my friend Rue and her husband were stationed in Jakarta with the U.S. State Department, and they invited people to come for New Year's 2009,
Mhm.
and so we went. So
Hmm.
we were in Lombok, we were in Bali. That's why I got bitten by the monkey on my 30th birthday. And then we were in Jakarta. Um, just to give you an idea of the state of Jakarta's streets, it was raining when we were there, and I actually saw a kid jump off the bottom of a bridge embankment and cannonball into a pothole in the road.
I believe it. I believe it.
It was how
Yeah.
deep it was. It was crazy.
Yeah.
We also went to an amusement park in Indonesia, and we were the only white people there. And everyone was taking pictures of us and asking if this was my darling, and it was kind of funny. So
Yeah, we have a different, well, I guess, because it's a sort of a mixed couple there. So my wife's from Bandung, which is 3 hours east of
yeah,
Jakarta. And one time we're in Bali and she's yelling, she probably starts yelling at me because she's trying to buy a bunch of stuff to bring back to her staff, right?
mhm.
And you're doing all the haggling and whatnot. And then after she's doing all that, she's getting all frustrated, and then she gets mad, like, this is all your fault, like that it took so long. Like, what? Because they saw I was with you, a bule foreigner.
Yeah.
Because they saw I was with you, they started so much higher. Like,
Fair enough. So
sorry?
let's go back to our list. Gene Bess, the all-time winningest college coach.
Yeah.
I mean, all-time winningest NBA, all-time winningest college sort of makes sense.
Yeah, but so a name that, because he did that mostly in junior college or lower, we're not really that familiar. Gary Blair, 37 years. I guess we can do the women's programs too.
Oh, we missed one more. We missed David Hickson.
When you went to Gene Bess, I just thought I jumped back up alphabetically.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no, all good. But yeah, leading Texas A&M to a national title. So
Yeah, that's Gary Blair, right?
yeah, Gary Blair. And yeah, David Hickson, Amherst College men's head coach, 42 years, 2 Division III titles. Again, pretty big deal for that level, but
who knows? Speaking of Amherst College and Division III titles, their soccer coach is actually my goalie from my high school soccer team, who has now won, I believe, 3 Division III titles in soccer.
Look at that.
So there you go, Justin Straponi.
All right, so let's I guess we'll look at the other names here. So Jennifer, I apologize, I might be pronouncing Ozzy. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of like make that very Italian up, but I wasn't sure. Not the strongest. I don't think she's been a finalist before. I don't believe so. But so this could be a tough one for her. National champion in 1990, Final Four MVP, multi-time Olympian, but didn't play much in the WNBA. So I don't know. It's going to be really hard for her to get in. I think, especially considering we've got a female who is a lock. There's another lock, I think. Speaking of San Antonio, we got Becky Hammon.
Yeah, Becky Hammond's 100% a lock.
Yeah, 6-time WNBA all-time all-star, multi-time Olympian, broke the gender gap barrier in becoming the first assistant coach in the NBA for the Spurs, and did coach a game, I believe, when Pop was.
Popovich, I think, may have gotten intentionally suspended before the game so that Hammond could coach.
That actually sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, and Hammond has been a legitimate finalist for multiple head coaching jobs in the NBA. She's going to get one eventually. She will be the first. No, I think she will. She'll be the first woman ever to coach a men's team in the 4 major leagues. And
It could be. I mean, like she what did she do? She led the Las Vegas to their first title in her first year. Actually, I apologize. I'm not positive. I'm not a huge WNBA expert, but but what I do know that it was her first year as a head coach.
She was a finalist for the Celtics job after when Ime Udoka got it.
Okay.
So just 2 years ago, she was one of the 3 finalists they were looking at.
Did she cheat on Neil Long?
Not live to tell about it, let me tell you. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. We'll see when Ime gets another job here, if he will get one. But I thought he'd get Atlanta's, except they gave it to Quinn Snyder. So we'll see what happens with that. I think they basically have said he's suspended for the year. You guys can touch him in the summer, but not now. Is my guess. Is what the league's come out with.
All right, let's talk about Becky for a second. So I want to go on a tangent here, if you don't mind.
Please.
Would it be better for the WNBA? Because and I rip on it and then I try to praise it. I want it to do. I really want it to succeed.
You actually legitimately do. As much as you have your, elevator ups, elevator downs, everything else, and rants about it, it's not. You're not ranting on it because you think it sucks. You're ranting on it because you want it to be better.
Well, and I think they make mistake after mistake, and I think they're also very unaware of what they are.
Correct.
Saying that, how much, if she keeps proving herself, now she's I'm going to argue that she's the most high profile head coach they've ever had in a league that once had Bill Laimbeer as a head coach. I will say that. If I'm the WNBA in Las Vegas, and I'm going to do anything and everything I can to make her the face, like the Popovich of this, that's what I would do.
But I think her goals are higher than the WNBA. No offense against the WNBA. I think she wants that position. You know what I mean? She wants to be Kim Ng. She wants to be the Amy Trask. But those guys, or those ladies, excuse me, have been at the inside level, not on field level. I think she wants that role, and I think she deserves that role from all that we've seen. So
yeah, well, it'll be really interesting. So the last one, unless I'm missing anyone, is Marion Washington, head coach with Kansas from 79 to 2003. This is going to be a hard one for her too, because of the national titles. Lifetime record of 516, 363, which is good, but
yeah, I mean, if that's one of the ones that's going to be very, very difficult just based off of what everybody else is here. I mean, my guess is our class ends up being, I mean, I'll say Nowitzki, Wade, Gasol, Popovich, Hammond, Katie, and I'll say Parker makes it. And then that leaves Bess, Hickson, Azzy, Gary Blair, and Washington. I guess Gary Blair has an outside shot, but I think that's your class. So,
yeah, I can agree with everything. I think the weakest one there is Parker.
Yeah, and Parker's a pretty strong candidate. There are a lot weaker players in the men's game than Tony Parker in the Hall of Fame already. So, and if this were a class with either Wade or Nowitzki, I think Parker's in. Wade and Nowitzki, he may not be.
Right. Yeah. So it's a tough one for him, but there's not that many big ones coming. I think that it's someone you could hold back.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think that might happen. Another big thing sort of happened because we always like to look at franchises and how they award former players, executives, whatnot. And San Jose retired their first number in Patrick Marleau.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other choice for them for their first number to retire. I mean, he spent all but his last. Wait, spent a year. I know he spent a year in Toronto. I think he was somewhere else.
He was a Leaf for a bit. Like
he was a Leaf for a bit. I feel like he was somewhere else, and I'm just not remembering. But I mean, franchise leader in just about everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely deserving of the first person to have their number retire for that franchise. I'm guessing next year they'll have their second in Thornton. Joe Thornton will probably go in right
Still
after.
hasn't retired.
I know. Yeah, someone asked on the internet who would be the next number retired in hockey, and I said either Chara in Boston or Thornton in San Jose or Duncan Keith if he's actually retired. He's in the front office for Edmonton. I'm not 100% sure he's done either. It's like
Well, he is retired as a player. He did retire.
He did retire, but I'm not 100% sure he's actually fully retired, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's no question who that franchise should retire the number first of. It wouldn't surprise me if then they go and get Nabokov or somebody else like from the past as well. But you had to wait until the first. He had to be the first person.
Yeah, actually, that's sort of a good one. I'm trying to think of anyone else here that sort of sticks out. Subban's not going to have his number retired, I don't think. Chara would be a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, Char's going to get it retired next year. Like he just, he officially finished with the Islanders last year. He didn't play this year. You want to give the guy some time to make sure he's fully done. But Char is 100% going to get his number retired by the Bruins here as soon as they think it's the right time.
Or whenever they decide that, or they could pull like an Oakland Athletic thing. Who was that? Crap. Who was the player last year because they were so unorganized and
Dave Stewart.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the Dave Stewart thing where they told him like 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, after they pretty much announced it that it was going to happen, but never said a day.
Yeah. Quality franchise. So.
Yeah, their marketing department's as good as their stadium. But all right. So the other thing too, that was from a week and a half ago, but I thought it was sort of interesting. Phil Esposito is going into the Tampa Bay Lightning Hall of Fame. Their first ever GM.
Yep.
You talk about marketing. I mean, he did anything and everything that he could think of to get people excited about hockey in Tampa Bay. And I don't know, some of them were maybe a little distasteful. We talked about when an opportunity. He did sign Manon Rhéaume in the season. Said afterwards, of course I would do it. I'd put a horse on skates if I thought it could work.
I mean, Bill Veeck just said he didn't think of it first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it did put eyes on the product, right, wrong, whatever. He did get them to their first playoff, and I didn't know this because why would I listen to their television that he broadcast for them? Because I don't catch their game. So, he is a part of that organization. So you combine all of that. So I don't like it. I get no issue with that.
Yeah. Jesus saves and Espo knocks in the rebound. Yeah. No, I mean, I have no problem with that. Let's be honest. The Southern expansion strategy by Gary Bettman. Oh, by the way, Gary Bettman last month broke David Stern's record for longest tenure as a commissioner in any of the 4 major sports.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Someone noticed that and they mentioned on Twitter a couple of days ago. But Bettman's Southern expansion strategy, which so many people will hate. I mean, if there's any
myself included at one time.
Yeah, any place that's just not the case is Tampa. That place is, and like I said, I went to a preseason game in Nashville, and that was fantastic as well. So, but yeah, he probably does it. I'm sorry?
You just never know sometimes.
Yeah, you just never know. So,
and just don't try Atlanta again. Don't.
Well, Canada needs another hockey team.
Quebec City.
That point is you put them in Atlanta first, and then they move.
Oh, there you go.
Both the Flames and Jets.
Yes. All right.
That was a joke. Chutrin got traded from Arizona to Ottawa today, and someone said, "Chutrin, you've been traded." Oh, thank God! And the joke was, "Thank God, I'm tired of playing for a team. Everyone's trying to move to Quebec City," and they're like, "About that."
Man,
Honestly, I will say this though: the Senators last year and a half, that team is way better than it used to be.
the amazing thing is they're still right now on the outside looking in, and they're going for it.
Yeah,
Whereas Nashville, not around the same place, saying, we're done.
it's weird because the East is so loaded, and like the East just got player after player after player, and the West got like nobody. It's just a whole bunch of talent went from West to East during this trade deadline so
The
far. It's not even over yet.
the only chance, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Boston obviously is the big favorite, but if they get beat up,
But I mean, that's what that trade was about, so
yeah.
more than anything. So they now have 7 starting defensemen. You can only start 6. So
Mhm.
this rotating through resting guys one day at a time. So
I can't wait for the playoffs in both the NHL and NBA. What
yeah,
I'm not waiting for is the World Baseball Classic, but I'll shit on that next week.
fair enough.
Yes.
Should we go to the death rattle?
Yeah, I don't know if are we covering 3 weeks worth or just the big ones?
Yeah, I'm going to go through some of them.
Okay.
I have way too many tabs open on the top of my computer at the moment. So if there's any I'm leaving out, we'll get back to them in another week. That seems fair. I will say while we've been off, the Beige Mistress has been very, very active.
Oh,
So they Hungarian athletes who have passed away in the last few weeks. Georgi Zako, who was a Hungarian figure skater, 3-time Hungarian national champion, passed away at the age of 89. Miklos Lendvai, a member of the Hungarian national soccer team, passed away at only the age of 47. What did he pass of? He committed suicide, is what
oh,
I came down to. Istvan Varga, a judoka who competed in the 88 Summer Olympics for Hungary, passed away at the age of 62. Ferenc Janosi passed away at the age of 84, a Hungarian volleyball player who participated in the 64 Olympics. And that's all I have for Hungarian. So that's still pretty active. That's like 1.3 a week or 1.6 a week. That's pretty active for her. So
and apparently she's getting better reviews than the new Marvel movie.
From what I understand, the Marvel movies have like now, like Ant-Man was kind of funny and tongue in cheek, and the new one just isn't, from what I understand. So
I haven't seen it, but it's whatever.
yeah, I will say that a masked man passed away this week.
Oh,
Riku Browning, who was the an underwater stuntman, probably best known for playing the creature from the Black Lagoon and all the underwater shots they ever had.
an underwater stuntman. I've never heard
Yeah,
those
so
two words put together.
Ben Chapman was famously the guy on land, but when Ben Chapman could not swim in the suit. So when they went underwater, it was Riku Browning, and he passed away at the age of 93.
Not from drowning, was it?
No,
Okay.
no, he did not. As far as I know. All right. Also passing away, just a couple other people outside of sports and stuff. Richard Belzer, of course, from Law and Order SVU more than anything. Also a very funny stand-up comedian, which kind of got lost as SVU stuff. Passed away at the age of 78. And one of the great sex symbols of all time, is how long it's been, Raquel Welch,
Mm-hmm.
passed away at the age of 82. She was still sexy well into her 70s.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah,
She
but she
was,
passed at 82 years old. All right, back to stuff that we normally do here. Olympic figure skater Doug Mattis passed away at the age of 56. I did say from what, but one of the first openly gay figure skaters that we had. He actually participated at the 1994 Gay Games in New York, which I was not aware was a thing. But he won 3 international medals and the junior title at the 1985 U.S. Championships. Like I said, he was 54.
Cool.
Former well-known defensive coordinator Larry Coyer passed away at the age of 79. Was defensive coordinator for the Broncos and the Colts, mostly during the 2000s, mid 2000s, 2003 through 2011. It doesn't say what he passed of. It just said he passed at the age of 79. Also in football, Conrad Dobler passed away at the age of 72. Three-time Pro Bowler, one-time second-team All-Pro with the Cardinals, Saints, and Bills, playing from 72 to 81. Played as a guard. Actually had one touchdown in his career, believe it or not, as a offensive guard. Fifth-round pick in 1972 out of Wyoming. He was 72. Oh, by the way, did you hear that they came back with Irv Cross's thing, and the worst form of CTE they'd ever seen?
Which, that blew my mind, considering when did he last play?
I mean, he played 17 years in the league. So,
right, but I mean, it's. I guess you just don't know when that's, I guess, going to affect you at some point, because I'm trying to think when he would have last played. Like I was born in 72. I don't think that. Well, he started as an analyst, for NFL Today in the 70s. No.
Yeah, he was. I think it was 72. He started, as a matter of fact.
Okay, all right.
He was the first ever African American analyst.
Right, right. Because I remember we talked about that when he did pass. Maybe we talked about that when Phyllis George passed. I don't recall. But either way, that blew my mind. Not so much the severity of it, but just how long it sort of took to get there or really affect him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true. So, anyway, continuing because we have a bunch. Mm-hmm. Also from the NFL, Fred Miller, defensive lineman, member of the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sorry, the Baltimore Colts team that lost Super Bowl III and won Super Bowl V. He was a NFL champion in '68, a Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl V, two-time All-Team, the second All-Pro, second team All-Pro, easy for me to say, in '67, '68, three-time Pro Bowler, passed away at the age of 82. From the world of wrestling, Jerry Jarrett passed away. Mm-hmm. He and Jerry Lawler were key with I guess mid-southern United States wrestling. Is that?
Yeah. Father of Jeff Jarrett, Double J. Interesting, Jim Cornette and Dave Meltzer can do a far better obituary than I can, and they have. But one thing that I found really interesting that isn't all that well known, when Vince McMahon looked like he was going to go to jail for the steroids trial, which he did beat, that's when he brought in Jerry Jarrett to run the company, if that were to happen. Because he knew that Jarrett he liked the South so much he wasn't going to stay
right
in Connecticut. But yeah, from everything I ever read about him, just like a very brilliant man. Actually was a booker, and a promoter before he ever wrestled.
Okay.
Which, that I had no idea. I just learned that. But yeah, a very important man who may not get his due, because his son did become a more famous person in the business. But yeah, Jerry Jarrett, very important, especially in Memphis.
Yeah. So Jerry Jarrett was 80 years old. Mm-hmm. From the WNBA, Simone Edwards, the Jamaican Hurricane, passed away of cancer at the age of 49. Went to Iowa, played for both New York Liberty and Seattle Storm. Yeah, just 49 is just too freaking young to die. That's all I'm going to say. From the world of, I know this is a weird one, free climbing.
Free climbing? Is that just climbing a mountain without like a harness or something?
Correct. Those people who climb up those crazy mountains. One of the absolute legends of it, Alan Steck, passed away at the age of 96. So when he started climbing, was like, he was 1947. He was the first person to climb. He and his brother would just climb up mountains and throw pitons, and they're like the first people ever to do this. There was like nobody to help them.
So throw a what?
Pitons, the metal
Oh, is that like
spikes that help
like a
people.
grappling hook or something?
No, they're the metal spikes you drive into the rock to give yourself footholds.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So he famously went up Sentinel Rock in Yosemite Valley and a couple other places.
Okay.
He's unlike a few others lived to the ripe old age of 96. There's actually another free climber who I only had one leg who passed away over this week. I didn't save it, but he was 52, was with his wife, and they sat down to rest, and he tripped on his own prosthetic leg and fell backwards off a cliff when he went to sit down on a bench to eat lunch. So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, of all ways to go. So, but anyway, also passing away, Bob Edwards, who was competed in the Olympics in 48, 52, 56 as a pole vaulter and decathlete. He won gold in pole vault in 56 and in 52 and 56, won bronze in 48. But just one of the great people in that. Also ran for president at one point, although he ran as the member of the Populist Party, which is a far-right white national organization, but three-time medalist in the Olympics. So he passed away at the age of 97. From the world of college basketball, Michael Holland passed away, the coach of the Virginia teams that made the Final Four in 81 and 84. Also made the ACC tournament, NIT, a few other things. 3-time SoCon Coach of the Year, 2-time ACC Coach of the Year. He passed away at the age of the age of 80. I took my glasses off so I could not have the reflection off my light. So, see, I'm gonna skip some of these. We had lost a couple of owners this week. Red McCombs passed away at the age of 95. Probably best known for owning the San Antonio Spurs, San Antonio Force, Denver Nuggets, and probably best known for the Minnesota Vikings. Passed away at the age of 95. Also passing away, where is it? Ted Lerner on the Washington Nationals. Passed away at the age of 97. Let's just go to music, and I'll leave everybody else alone for this week. We lost David Jolicoeur from De La Soul.
Yeah.
Trugoy the Dove. Passed away at the age of only 54.
Love that group.
Yeah, I did too. He had congestive heart failure and had to wear a life vest or defibrillator machine at all times, which is not something that seems like it's a great thing to do. But he did February 5th. He was not on stage. De La Soul did something at the Grammys, but he wasn't there. He passed away a week later. So, also passing away, Huey Piano Smith, leader of the Clowns, passed away at the age of 89. Rhythm and blues pianist, very influential in the history of rock and roll. Boogie woogie piano player. Probably the most famous song of him was the Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Flu. That is Huey Piano Smith, for those of you who aren't familiar with him. But somebody I think they've looked at, I mean, if there's a seniors category they ever come up with, he's somebody they should look back at for the Rock Hall if they ever end up doing that seniors category.
Well, we could go on a lot of things that they should do, but
yes.
Anyway.
Also passing away, Chuck Jackson, who was one of the first people who record Burt Bacharach stuff. But he had hits I Don't Want to Cry, Any Day Now, I Keep Forgetting, and All Over the World, all back in 1961. He passed away at the age of 85. Also passing, Tom Whitlock, the man who wrote all of the weird slow synthesizer songs from 80s soundtracks, like Take My Breath Away from Top Gun. um, for which he won a Academy Award and a Golden Globe. He also wrote Highway to the Danger Zone. He wrote a couple of, there's a whole bunch of them here, but his songs were recorded by Berlin Bonnie Tyler, Jennifer Rush, Michael McDonald, Ray Charles, Graham Nash, Falco, Dana Ross, Teddy Pendergrass, Roger Daltrey, John Entwistle. But he died from complications of Alzheimer's at the age of 68, which is way too young for Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, committing suicide this week, country music songwriter Kyle Jacobs passed away at the age of 49, best known probably for being the husband of Kelly Pickler. But he wrote a whole bunch of songs, including More Than a Memory by Garth Brooks, which was the first song that ever debuted at #1 on the Billboard's country music charts. So he was only 49. Is there anyone else who I really want to make sure we get into? A whole bunch of these I'm just going to leave. We'll get them another time. Ron Altbach from the rock band King Harvest, the keyboardist from King Harvest, one of the founders, passed away at the age of 77. He was also a member of Celebration with Mike Love. After he was also a session keyboardist for the Beach Boys at one point, but of course, best known for King Harvest, best known for Dancing in the Moonlight. Remember that song?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so he was a keyboardist in that. He was 76. And the last person who I think we need to bring up is drum baseball catcher and probably better known as announcer Tim McCarver. Passed away at the age of 81. Someone who drew a lot of ire. Like, he and Joe Morgan were widely thought to be some of the worst announcers by some people. But one thing I will say, differentiate him from Joe Morgan, was Tim McCarver seemed to love baseball. Joe Morgan seemed to love complaining about people.
True.
But yeah, he actually did play baseball. He played for the Cardinals and Phillies from 59 through 80, two-time All-Star, two-time World Series champion, member of the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame. But more than anything, and actually you get won the Ford Frick Award, I believe, too, correct?
I believe so, yeah. Sadly, I think a lot of people remember him best for his little spats with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, and well, he also had the one with he had the one because Deion was playing football and baseball at the same time. He also had the one with Manny Ramirez calling him despicable for what he did in Boston, and all of a sudden getting better when he was in with the Dodgers.
But I think that whole thing, yeah, because McCarver's issue with Sanders, again, it stems from his just love of baseball.
Yeah.
So for him, and I was kind of pro Deion on that one. I mean, do what you want, do what you can do while you can do it. But he was a baseball purist.
100%.
And maybe we need a little bit more people just to love that game.
That is true.
Yeah.
He was Joe Buck's partner for years. And actually has at the time broadcast more World Series than anybody else in baseball history. Used to be held by Kirk Gowdy, and he broke it in 2003. His last game was watching his beloved Cardinals lose to my Boston Red Sox in the 2013 World Series. By the way, he also had his own album of jazz standards called Tim McCarver Sings Songs from the Great American Songbook. So you can put that on your list of athletes who are singing.
I think that was definitely not on my radar. If I could add one more name.
Oh, please. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So this comes on the heels of 6 months ago losing my mother. I lost my father 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So Peter Buchner passed away at the age of 80. And right before we went live, I noticed, because I'm, if you notice, it's a different background. I'm at his apartment. Along with my brother, we're trying to settle everything, the affairs in order, and I could see sort of like the blue H. And I always knew the hospital's right there, but I never really looked outside here at night. And obviously, I can't look at that place the same way again. couple positives if I could. Well, I don't think anyone from them from that place will see that. The people at Joseph Brant Hospital, thank you. You made his final days as comfortable as possible. In Canada, you can do assisted suicide, and that's what he did. He had cancer everywhere. Like at the end, there was probably more cancer than him. And it's hard when you know exactly what time he's going to die, and we did. Saying that, when I said when my mom passed, because I said that she would have watched every show I did. She couldn't because she could have, but she had Alzheimer's really bad, so she wouldn't have understood anything. She would have watched everything I did. My dad watched nothing I did because he's not into sports or any of this stuff. But as we're sort of cleaning out his effects, I found something that he saved. I was actually interviewed a couple years ago in the Hamilton Spectator for the fictitious athlete hall. Hamilton Spectator, which is the local paper here, and he saved it. I didn't even know he noticed I was in it. So I thought all my tears are done, and they're not. So God, thank you for everything. I didn't always listen to everything you said, but all of your traits, good and bad, I got them. And one stubbornness, and we're gonna make this work, Evan. We are.
We are.
The last thing he actually dictated, it wasn't his last words, but while my brother and I would get back to the hospital room, and he had the nurse, he dictated to the nurse his famous quote, which is, "I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong." And that was just waiting for us, like on sort of that board. And oh fuck, can we just change the topic?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
It's your dad.
I just finished my drink, so yeah, Pepsi to that. But yes, love you, Dad. So as he takes the elevator up,
Oh, geez.
the next segment, hey,
Hey, I'm more impressed than anything. So
thank you. The next section is elevator up, elevator down, where I'll look at the last little while and say who has made a better Hall of Fame case and who hasn't.
Elevator up, elevator down.
And in the world of the NBA, I was gonna do something, another elevator up that I've already talked about before, but I want to look at someone who is not having the best year and his team is not taking that next step, and that's Rudy Gobert. The Timberwolves are disappointing now. Granted, Karl-Anthony Towns went down early in the season, but Gobert has not been a difference maker for that team. No. And with what Donovan Mitchell is doing right now in Cleveland, it's pretty clear that Gobert, what they gave up for Gobert is not going to pan out. It's just not going to.
Well, I mean, I was listening to Bill Simmons was on with House and Dave Jacoby, and they were talking about that trade. So that trade was that Minnesota got Rudy Gobert. The Jazz got 4 first-round picks and a pick swap, along with Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's now been traded to the Lakers, where I think he's currently the 3rd best player. But they said that if you made that trade again and you offered, if the Jazz offered or the Timberwolves offered Gobert straight up for Walker Kessler, the Jazz would probably say no.
and yeah, you're probably not wrong. Gobert has definitely regressed. There's not going to be another Defensive Player of the Year for him. There's probably not going to be another All-Star for him at this point. And this is getting into that Herschel Walker narrative. And where I'm referring to that, a giant trade that transforms the fortunes of a team, or in this case, Minnesota. And I respect a team for trying to go all in, and sometimes it doesn't always work. I mean, it can work. Look at the Raptors when they did that trade for Kawhi, knowing that there was little to no chance they could re-sign him, and they didn't, but it worked, and they got the ring, so who cares? But Gobert, and Towns were not the fit that we thought they were going to be. Gobert is not the player that he used to be. And a lot of hauls are based on a narrative. And his narrative is changing for the worse.
Yeah,
so patient
100%.
zero, if you remember that.
Yeah, patient zero, 100%.
Yeah, is watching his Hall of Fame chances plummet. And it's not like he doesn't have a couple good. I mean, Edwards is doing what he can. But yeah, what Gobert has done this year is not good. And he like you were saying, like when it's all said and done, 5 years from now, we could look back and think, holy shit, Rudy Gobert wasn't even the best player in that trade.
No. I mean, right now, Walker Kessler's been really good, but I wanted Jared Vanderbilt for the Celtics from the beginning. I love Jared Vanderbilt, player. I loved everything about him. I was sad when he got traded to the Lakers. We ended up with Mike Muscala instead, which cost us a lot less than Jared Vanderbilt. But yeah, it was a bad trade at the time. We all knew it was a bad trade at the time.
I think we didn't know how bad this was going to be. I mean, like this was like, but
I mean, it's trade or Danny Ainge. Just don't trade with Danny Ainge. It's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So yeah, that is my definitive elevator down. I can see Gobert being another elevator down the road. I'm going to save the person I had as an elevator up for a later conversation, just in case. I just want to see a little bit more for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So now we go to your good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, here's a great thing. Is now my brother uses that as his ringtone. Not me doing it, but
that's funny.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with the bad. The Memphis Grizzlies. And what's been going on with them? They went from one of the most entertaining teams in basketball to like 2 months ago deciding they were going to have a heel turn. And now they're just kind of awful. And then the story about Ja Morant that came out today, you hear that?
I heard a bit of that. Obviously, I've been running around a little bit, but
I don't know if it's true or not. But there are a lot of people who posted a video of Shannon Sharp talking about Ja Morant a couple weeks ago, about how he's not a tough guy, but he really, really wants people to think he's a tough guy. But like the idea of him punching a 17-year-old kid for 12 or 13 times in the face over a basketball game, or the story of the shoe salesman who got in a disagreement with his mother. She called him, he showed up with 9 people to threaten the guy. And then one of his buddies pushed a mall cop, and he said he was going to wait and find out when they come back. And like, there may or may not have been a gun involved. Probably not, because the NBA has found that, or they did an investigation into it and they didn't find anything. Who knows what they're covering? But that just seems like one of those ones. There's enough witnesses that it's kind of hard to cover up because it was a basketball game in a public place. But I don't know what's going on with them. They're a team who 2 months ago looked like they were a serious contender. And now they just look like they're legitimately falling apart.
Yeah.
So it's too bad because, like I said, that team last year, when they in the conference finals, they gave the Warriors a hell of a time.
in the second round.
It was the second round? That was the second round.
Yeah, second. Yeah.
I apologize. You're right.
Yeah, all good.
But they gave the Warriors a hell of a series. They looked like an up and coming team. They looked like a lot of fun. They played for each other. Now they seem like jerks. So I know what's going on there, but they got to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good bad.
Yeah, it's bad now. I don't know how ugly it could get ugly, but I don't think we're there yet. Speaking of repeat ugly, what can I say about the ownership of Dan Snyder that hasn't been said about Afghanistan? So if they could do whatever, if the NFL could do whatever they wanted, they would take Dan Snyder's franchise from him. Yeah?
I agree with that.
But apparently...
From shipping dock to college class.
Sorry, I had a pop-up ad on one of the things I had here. But apparently, he took a $55 million loan from his own team that he didn't tell stakeholders about. And then the NFL was told that he did this loan and didn't really do much about it. Which is very, very difficult for them to force him out.
Yeah, Vince McMahon is shaking his head on that business practice. Well, at least you should have got laid, pal.
He charged him the team $4.5 million to put their logo on his personal jet, and then charged the franchise $10 million for use of the aircraft. Like, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He gives himself a salary of $10 million a year out of the funds of the team. Like, the whole thing is just a mess. They have no real. I mean, they were okay this year. They're a pretty directionless franchise, right? That's like Carson Wentz go. Tyler Heineke's probably going to be gone. Like, they have no real direction. They haven't had a direction since Snyder's taken over. He's one of the 5 worst owners in sports.
I put him number 1.
I'm just figuring there's somebody I'm forgetting.
Well, Stephen Ross is up there.
Yeah, Robert Sarver's out now, so we can't put him in there.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff, to be fair, with Robert Sarver, we didn't know about.
That is true. Who's the guy in Ottawa? The Senators?
Well, he's since passed on, Eugene Melnick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they're trying to sell that franchise.
Yeah.
For a sum of money that I'm like, maybe I could raise that.
Well, let's do a GoFundMe. You, me, Ryan Reynolds. That's 2/3 Canadian. There you go.
There we go.
That works.
And my earliest ancestors came over to the Gaspé, so
there you go.
They're my earliest North American ancestors. So I'm a direct descendant of the first French trappers in Canada.
And Ryan Reynolds, sorry, you'd be the least attractive of us 3, but he's
a free guy.
We'll take him in.
Yeah, he's the free guy. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what's going on. They got to figure this out though. But if the NFL somehow helped cover up a fraud for Snyder, it's not clear whether they did or not. That makes it even worse than ugly, but they need to get him out somehow. So I just don't know how they're going to do
it. He's one of those guys. I just think of myself as a kid, why I hated the Maple Leafs because of the ownership. Kids, look up Harold Ballard, and then you'll see why that was the case. I can't imagine the same if I was the kid version of me growing up in DC that I'd say, fuck this team. I'm not going to be a Commanders fan.
No.
Not while this guy's running it. No way.
No. I mean, who was their last signature? I mean, Darryl Green, their last signature player? I mean, they've had some guys who've been pretty good, but none of them have been fantastic.
No.
So
yeah, I openly despise them just because of that guy. Completely.
Yeah. So I mean, poor Washington, or the whole area, Peter Angelos in Baltimore. Like, when I got there, they had some terrible owners, and they haven't gotten significantly better. The Wizards are forever terrible. The Capitals are hemorrhaging. They're still maybe going to the playoffs, but they just traded
Orlov to you guys.
Yeah, they traded him us. He scored 2 goals and had an assist.
Yeah. Oh, tonight too?
Yeah. So we'll get to that. We'll get to Orlov's new team in a second here. But like, he was their top healthy defenseman. Kirk, because Carlson's been injured.
Yeah.
And the Nats are back to being terrible again, like they were when as a partial season ticket holder back in 2009, 2010. So I don't know what's going on. It's a tough time to be a fan in DC. Tough time to be a fan in Chicago, honestly, too.
Yeah, Patrick Kane traded too.
Yeah, the Blackhawks are terrible. The Cubs are terrible. The White Sox underachieved. The Bulls are thoroughly mediocre. And the Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft. So that's how their season went. Of course, they still beat my Patriots, but whatever. but like it's just
They did
it's
have the
tough
best
sporting
week
teams.
one moment sliding on the turf.
That's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's get to my good.
All right, so I guess it's obvious. So you tipped it, so I guess it's the Bruins.
Yeah, well, it's not Bruins. It's specifically one player on the Bruins.
Oh.
So the Boston Bruins franchise was founded November 1st of 1924. 4 years before my dad was born. My dad was November 1st of 28. So they've been around for 99 seasons at this point. They had one player who, in the last 3 games, did something that no Bruins player had ever done before in the history of the franchise.
All right, let me guess what it is. Well, okay, what is it they did, and then can I guess the player?
Well, if I give it to you what they did, it's gonna be really obvious. So,
Oh, okay, I'll just tell me then.
Linus Ullmark, our goaltender, probably the leading candidate for the Vezina, scored the first goal for a goaltender in Boston Bruins history when he scored against the Vancouver Canucks, because fuck that team. They gotta hate it every time we're there, but he scored the first goal in Bruins history for a goaltender, and then 3 days later, because they played in Edmonton and then they played last night in Calgary. He set the single game record for saves by a goaltender in Bruins history. He saved 54 out of 57 shots. Bruins won a game in Calgary last night in overtime that they're outshot 57-19.
Which is crazy that Boston's so good. On BetStamp, if you could try and bet, like, how many times like you're not going to pick the Bruins to sort of like, what was it?
I'm
like
not. I may regret saying this. I'm not worried about the first round matchup for the Bruins. Whether it's the Penguins, the Caps, the Flyers, or the Senators, or the Sabres. I'd like it to be the Sabres just so they can get in the playoffs. Those teams aren't that scary to me because the Bruins have done very well against, although they did lose their first 2 to Ottawa. But that second round is just going to be brutal. If they get through the first round playing either Tampa or Toronto, and then playing either the Canes, Devils, or Rangers in that third round, the East is just going to be a gauntlet to get through, and it's going to be a battle. The Western Conference may be a lot easier to get through this playoff season than the East. But yeah, if you
want nothing to do with Buffalo if I were you.
Maybe we'll see if they get there. They have their goaltending is just so subpar.
True.
So
that'll be like, what did I hear the other day? Boston's got like a plus minus of over 80.
They have what?
A plus minus of over 80.
They have a plus minus of 97.
Of 97? Oh God, okay.
Hold on, I'll get to that. That was the thing yesterday. Let me get the NHL standings at this point. So I was right. They have a plus minus of 97. Second in the league in plus minus. Where do you think that is? It's the Devils are second in plus minus.
It was like 40?
51.
51, okay.
The Devils are plus 51. The Bruins are number 1 in defense and number 2 in scoring.
A goal and a half average.
Yeah. They played 60 games and they're plus of 97. So it's over a goal. It's over a goal and a half a game.
That's the Bruins are incredible. It's one of the most phenomenal regular seasons I've ever seen. What that translates in the playoffs, I don't know.
That's the thing about the playoffs. You have absolutely no idea. But hey, you might as well go for it. This could very well be Bergeron and Krejci's last ride.
The other thing too that I think would make me feel pretty good as a Bruins fan, Ullmark may never have been there before when it comes down to this in the postseason. We'll see what he is. But you've got a really good backup in Jeremy Swayman. He's a very, very good goalie.
Ullmark is number 1 in save percentage in the NHL. Swayman is number 3.
Yeah. So I haven't checked this, but I'm sure they're the runaway winners for the William M. Jennings.
You got to figure Ullmark's the favorite for the Vezina.
Oh God, yeah. Ottinger and Hellebuck might be the only ones who could supplant him, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Right now, the Sabres are 3 points out of that last spot. It's currently held by the Penguins.
Yeah,
And I
Buffalo
forgot to
scares me a
mention-
lot more than Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry.
Buffalo scares me a lot more than Pittsburgh.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I guess with that, the show has come to a conclusion. Normally I promote things, but I've been away. So vote. www.nothallofame.com/USA for the first ever United States Athletic Hall of Fame class. Evan and I may have been part of the core group that put together the nominees, but whoever gets through is up to you. This is pure democracy. It's not a republic.
100%.
It's not a banana republic. It's not the Gap.
We want you to fill the gap.
There we go. So with
Yeah.
that, wherever you are, wherever you may be, you know what? Just call a loved one tonight. Just
100%.
stay safe, everybody.
All right. Take care, guys.